Hello and welcome to Cookery with Mason Storm. In this video we're going to look at celebrating Bread Day by making some turkey bread. In my previous video I carved a turkey and I drained the juices off of it. And this is a really good way to use up the leftover turkey after Thanksgiving. And the juices work really good for making the gravy, so I'm going to start off with making the gravy for this. The gravy that we make is quite simple and quite easy to make. Due to the way that we made our broth originally, with the long cooking time and the onion soup mix inside the broth, there's a lot of flavor already there. It's a little bit jelly once we took it out of the fridge, but it quickly softens up in the saucepan. And what we're going to do is heat it up to a boil and then reduce the heat. Now once we get to a boil, we're going to add some corn starch or flour to thicken it up. Now there's a little bit of a technique to doing this, and that is mixing the flour with cold water first and then pouring the cold water flour mixture into the broth. This really helps prevent blotchiness or kind of spots in the gravy where it kind of coagulates too quick if you just pour flour into hot broth. And as far as controlling the gravy, the more flour you add, or cornstarch, the thicker it gets. So if it's not thick enough, add more. It's just kind of keep trying it till you get it the way you want it. But I do add a little bit of black pepper to season it, but once it's kind of thick enough, then I just turn off the heat and set it aside and let it kind of cool off. This recipe is essentially made up of two different sections. There's the filling and the bread itself. We're going to be doing the filling first because if we do the bread first, it'll get soggy by the time we have the filling done. So to begin with, we're going to dice up some of this turkey here that we have left over. And small pieces work really good for this, so it's a really good way to use up your leftovers. And then we're going to cut up an onion and proceed to saute the onion. And as far as other ingredients go for the filling, all we need is an egg and we've got our gravy. Now that the sauteing of the onion is done, the gravy is still a little bit on the hot side, so we're going to let it cool off probably maybe another 15 minutes. Depends how fast you do everything, but once that's cooled off, then we can do this. So we're going to measure out 2 cups of gravy, and then we're going to pour a little bit of that gravy into our egg yolk. Separate the egg white, toss the egg white. We're not using it in this recipe. Just kind of mix that all up. And then we're going to combine the ingredients in the saucepan to finish making the filling. So it's already got the onion in it. So next we're going to pour in the gravy, 2 cups of gravy. And then the turkey goes back in afterwards, stirring at the same time. I think it's on a medium-high heat right now. There we go. We got our turkey in there. Thickened it up quite a bit. We're just kind of cooking it down so that it kind of has a little bit more texture to it. It's not like a liquidy or anything. But if it was too liquidy, the bread wouldn't cook right. So the egg kind of acts as the thickener agent in this situation, and we just cook it for a few minutes, and then we're done making our solution. If it's too hot, turn down the heat. You don't really want to cook it like crazy. So I think we just kind of had it boiling a little bit, and then we reduced the heat so it's more of a simmer, and kind of just kept stirring it so it doesn't stick to the bottom or overheat or burn in any spots, but it goes pretty well. And then once this is all done, then we set that aside and let it kind of cool off. I think you could try this recipe with many different types of meat, and you would probably have a great deal of success. You could probably also do more onions, or even throw in a couple hot peppers if you really wanted to. I am kind of tempted to try making this again and having a little bit of Frank's hot sauce in there and seeing what that does, because I think that would really take it up a notch, but we'll do the experimenting another time. Okay, we'll move on to making our batter now. Now this is bread day, but this is really more of a biscuit recipe. baking powder style biscuit anyway. So we combine 2 cups of flour, 1 tablespoon of baking powder, a teaspoon of salt, and half a cup of butter. Mix our dry stuff in first, and then we use our pastry knife to work in the butter into the batter. Anyone who does a lot of camping, you're going to probably be familiar with this type of recipe because it's quite easy and it's quite delicious. And over there on the side there I have 3/4 cup of milk, and once we're done kind of mixing everything in, then we'll pour the milk in and we'll mix it some more. You want to do the milk right at the very end because you don't want it to get all like soggy. Like, you want to have everything ready. You know, you pour the milk in, you finish mixing up your biscuit dough or whatever, and then you're ready to move on to the next phase. Now that this is starting to look pretty close to good, we'll get that milk in there, and then we'll mix it all up nice and good, taking our time, getting it kind of perfect. And once it kind of starts to solidify and kind of hold its own shape and starts to really feel like batter, then it can be manipulated, and we'll get it out of the bowl and onto the counter with some flour. Then we can start the process of kind of rolling it out to kind of a rectangular shape, I guess. Growing up, my mother used to always make this recipe whenever we would have a turkey, be that Thanksgiving, Christmas, or whatever holidays that also involve a turkey. And so I have quite a bit of nostalgia with this, and kind of hoping that with the bread day that some other people will be able to give this a try, and it's quite good. But we're almost done here, so we're kind of to size, and it's rectangular, kind of like we want it. And then for the last step, once we're got this kind of finished here, we'll apply our turkey slurry to the batter. So when it comes to the turkey mixture, we plop it all down, and then we kind of flatten it out so that we have a nice kind of thin coat of the mixture along the entire sheet of biscuit. And we're just using our wooden spoon here and our spatula and getting it all nice and flat. And once we have it to shape and the consistency that we're kind of looking for, then we start on one side and we just start rolling over itself, kind of like a cinnamon bun, just tastes vastly different. And then we kind of roll in the corners there, at the ends, and we're left with our loaf of turkey. Then get it on the pan with some parchment on it, and into the oven we go. Into the oven we go, and 450 degrees, 10-15 minutes, maybe a bit longer. Once it's all golden brown, it's good to go. Now as far as cutting it, you could cut it like I did in the video, but I found a much better way on my second piece. If you just put the knife on the top of it and push down, it'll separate nice and easily. Far easier to accomplish. Anyway, hope you liked this. Happy bread day. Stay awesome. feel free to subscribe and comment on my video.